Well, it was a disaster for Queensland Labor overnight, with voters sending a very strong message to Stephen Miles. Now, you had two by-elections yesterday. The seat of Ipswich West, been held by Labor since 2001, except for the Newman government, and Inala, which was Anastasia Palaszczuk's seat and her father's before that. Now, Labor suffered a 15% swing and lost the Ipswich West by-election, and in Inala, Labor retained that seat but suffered an almost 31% swing. Finally, something that Stephen Giggles Miles couldn't laugh about.
Well, holding on to particularly Ipswich West was always going to be very hard. I said that. These results are clearly very bad. I was expecting a bad result, and they're even worse than that. Clearly, they wanted to send us a message that we need to work harder, particularly on cost of living and on community safety.
Bloke looks like he's just rolled out of bed, but opposition leader David Crisafulli, as you can imagine, was on a high after these results.
So I say to Queenslanders right across the state that it is time. It's time to get rid of a very bad government in a little over half a year's time. So to those Queenslanders thinking of voting for us for the first time, we are a unified and focused and disciplined opposition. So whether you're a miner in Mackay, a roofer in Rocky, a landscaper in Logan, this is your opportunity to get rid of a very bad government after 10 years of declining services. This state needs change, and tonight residents in two Labor Party heartlands said enough is enough.
I mean, we expect to swing against an incumbent government, Paul, yada, 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 but we're not talking about small swings here. We're talking about an annihilation, basically.
No, the machine has faltered in Queensland, and I couldn't be happier. But that said, I've seen this many times before where you think the Queensland government's on its knees and it's about to get blown away. But the Queensland Labor machine is relentless, it is fearless, it is shameless. So they've got a lot of time, and they're in government between now and October to do their best to do something about it. That said, you know when a government's on the nose is when, put simply, people just don't give you the benefit of the doubt anymore. It doesn't matter if, in this case, youth crime's out of control. You could introduce 50 new laws that are 17 times tougher than anything that's ever been in before. But if they just don't trust you anymore, they don't care. You can hand out $1,000 to every single voter, but if the benefit of the doubt has gone away, then take the money and run. I think we're at that stage now. A couple of things that were also really interesting about an insight into the state election was that the Liberals held on to the mayoralty of Brisbane City. That was really important because the expectation was that the Greens were in some sort of surge and may well end up getting in a strong position. Don't quite know how the council's going to pull together, but the fact that that was won pretty easily and early in the night shows that that southeast conversation that Labor often needs to do to bulk against upper northern losses isn't there. Townsville is fascinating too. Jenny Hill has been the Lord Mayor there, or been around local politics for the best part of 20 years. She's a strong Labor woman, and I've always had great dealings with her as the Townsville Mayor. But when we were there a few weeks ago, you could tell something was on. And right now, tonight, the One Nation-backed candidate is actually leading and in that mayoralty race. That matters because even though youth crime's been around a couple of times in state elections, 3 of the 4 Townsville MPs keep being elected as Labor.
Yep.
If that falls away, well, then Crisafulli gets closer to where he needs to go. Only a note of warning is on the Sunshine Coast. Now, the Sunshine Coast at the last state election, which had been previously hardcore rolled gold blue, went red in part because of COVID, keep the borders safe, older population. Looks like there's a teal-ish mayor that has been elected there, and whether that means that those seats going back to the Libs go via independents or teals. But of course, massive night for the Liberal Party, everything heading in the right direction. But don't be surprised if between now and November we start to hear, we'll lose the Olympics if we change the government. And my favourite detail was Stephen Miles putting on the maroon State of Origin hat, doing it, how to vote. Please don't, and they whacked you anyway, pal.
I've got to say, Joe, if you were the Queensland Labor Party,
yes.
I'd be sitting there right now ruining the day they ever got rid of Anastasia Palaszczuk, because I think Miles has led them further down the dark path than Palaszczuk ever would have, even though they thought she was on the knows.
Look, everyone knows the golden rule with Labor, and especially state Labor, is if when you're 3 terms in and you know you're going to lose the next election, you boot the bloke and replace him with a chick. You don't do it the other way around. So Carmel Lawrence and Joan Kerner and Christina Keneally and Anna Bligh, they're all going, guys, it's backwards. It's like Willy Wonka. Stop, flip it, repeat. There's so much to see. Like the swings are just absolutely enormous. I will just say there's no letter writers. It wasn't 31, but 21 in Inala, and it's held by about 28% or something. It's just a huge thing. But it's enormous. It reminds me a lot of the Penrith by-election in 2010, just before Labor under Christina Keneally was just completely and utterly wiped out for 3 terms and a dozen years, and has only just got back with minority government now with the greatest premier and most handsome man in the world, Chris Minns.
How much does he pay you?
The interesting thing about it, with looks like that and cheekbones like that, he does not have to pay me a dime. But the interesting thing about that is that the apocryphal story is that it was polling in Penrith that was shown to federal Labor MPs when they were trying to knife Kevin Rudd to say, this is how screwed we are, this is how screwed we are. And of course, a lot of the people who saw it said, hey, I was never told that was state polling, blah, blah. So the question is, what does this mean? We all know that Stephen Miles is gone for all money. He's got no reservoir of goodwill. He behaved like a muppet during COVID and behaved like a bratty little brawler. And now those fists are coming back at him. But what does it mean for federal Labor, which is my primary concern? One is Labor is actually hoping to pick up a couple of seats maybe back from the Greens in Queensland, or one at least, maybe Brisbane. I don't know about Griffith and Ryan. Labor should be, the right of the party should be in control in Queensland, not the left. So they've got that opposite as well.
100%.
And I reckon you could absolutely 1,000% take to the bank there will be no federal election before the Queensland state election, because if these are the sort of swings they're getting, you want everyone to get it well and truly out of your system before elbow comes up, and then hopefully there's a bit of a correct. So that's what I think the take-home message is, but just woeful numbers.
I mean, there's never been a government, Labor, Liberal, whatever, Freya, that has lost on a hard-on-crime campaign. And Labor down in South Australia, where I'm from, was very good at it for a long time under the Rand government. You know, I remember Kevin Foley, then the Treasurer and Police Minister, very loudly saying, rack 'em, pack 'em and stack 'em. And it worked. I mean, they reigned for 16 years down there. They went hard on crime. I don't know why the Labor Party has taken so long in Queensland to wake up and go, look, maybe if we just take this thing seriously, and it's been going on for yonks, maybe we'll have some success.
Well, that's exactly right. And I think the problem for Labor at the moment now is that youth crime has become such an issue that every single person has a story. Everybody has been touched by this. It's no longer just a headline that you see in the media, oh, youth crime is bad. This is something that is affecting people. Cars are being stolen. People are being stabbed in parking lots. This is ridiculous. Is this Australia? Looking at what's happening in Queensland, you wouldn't think so. And I think it's gotten so bad, it's hit so many people that I'm not surprised by these incredible swings against Labor. I wouldn't expect anything less.
And I've got to say, you can read so much into a state result, Caroline. I think people do understand that state politics and federal is different. And we'll get to Tasmania in a minute because, of course, they've got a Liberal government down there, so, you know, they've sort of bucked the trend. I don't know that this actually says anything about Labor's chances at a federal level. It's very much a blowback against the Palaszczuk/Miles government.
Yes, I mean, I think that is true, but I also think that momentum can be a really underestimated thing. And when there is a sense generally that a party is on the nose in one state where they've held office for 3 terms of government, I think that can make people more broadly feel perhaps federally Labor isn't a safer choice. Now, I'm not saying that's going to swing a federal election, but I do think that what happens in Queensland will be watched very closely by people who are interested in federal politics. And just on what Freya was saying on the youth crime issue, it's not just the fact that they're not taking a stronger policy position on youth crime and have been so slow to act on youth crime, but their new leader laughed when he was asked about the issue. I mean, that says everything. And if people don't think it matters how a premier acts during press conferences, I think that just summed up what Queensland Labor feels about youth crime, that it's trivial to them, that it's a laughing matter.
And he's just so unimpressive to watch, Stephen Miles. I mean, look, you know, in terms of picking a leader, he ain't the man, I don't think.